Cool. So some of our homies participated in the Unreal Spring Jam, and they're going to show what they've been making. Applause to Leene, Adam, Oit, and Simon.
And Dennis, who was here with us, but not anymore.
Not today.
Okay, so this is what we came up with. That was the trailer. It shows gameplay that was compulsory for the Unreal Spring Jam. Everybody had to submit a 30 to 60 second gameplay video of whatever they made, and that was ours. And this trailer was made by Dennis.
So the theme was, what was it?
Yeah, what is hidden in snow comes forth in the thaw.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
it was a 6-day jam, so it was quite a long jam, and there was maximum of 5 people in one team.
Yeah, so these are level design white boxes, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I guess we can start by explaining the general concept behind the game, which is like, we interpreted the theme as it's kind of a revelation, it's a paradigm shift when something is hidden and then revealed, right? When it comes forth in the thaw means the secret is revealed in spring, basically. And we wanted to kind of make it as a metaphor for stress or anxiety, so that you are, in the beginning of the game, you're posed with this giant threat, the big storm. And it's kind of, everybody tells you, oh my god, what is that? You have to run, you have to escape. And the further into the game you go, you start to realize something is not as it seems. Like, people give you like weird dialogue that is not really, like, one person says, what storm? I don't see it, or it's not my storm, basically. So the idea is, it's not actually a physical storm, it's more of a mental storm that you have to surpass. So you win the game by actually not escaping from the storm, but going into the storm.
Spoilers.
Yes, but I think most people have played the game already. Yeah. And when you do that, it kind of opens up the next part of the game, which is like everything turns to spring, and everybody has different dialogue, and then you can kind of explore the game as you like.
And this is basically the level blockouts we had. We had 5 main emotions that we wanted to convey. In order of appearance, it's denial, panic, anger, hate or anger, then bargaining, so basically coming up with a solution, and finally acceptance. Yeah. And each of these islands has a different feel. That's the anger one, for instance.
Yeah, I tried to model them so that the islands would kind of resemble what it would be going through the emotions. To the best of my abilities. I'm not a level designer, so but I did my best.
Yeah.
Do you have any more pictures?
Yeah, this is just one example of the dialogue. So this dude is in denial, and denial is denominated by the gray color of the fur. And the dialogue box as well. So the characters who are experiencing an extreme emotion are color-coded, like both in the dialogue screen and skin as well.
Mm-hmm. And this is the Panic Island, which is like, it's like the Denial Island, but just way worse. You see, like, this guy over here is talking about, like, why is my home, I can't reach my home. And it's like, and when it's spring, he talks about, like, oh, I don't need to reach my home. I don't need a home, I'm free.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff.
Then generally, like, we put a big emphasis on visual storytelling and general mood, so that went into our level design a lot, and
this is the
asset production too.
Yeah. And the way I try to model it is just as empty as possible. So it's just one big island with literally nothing on it, except for this one place at the heart.
And this is just a fly-through. You have wind streams as well, which can carry you from island to island, or you can choose not to go in there, depending on what you want to do, like how you want to play. And they will just help you get to your goal faster, and you can slip into them and slip out as well. Another example of dialogue and extreme emotion. This one is panic, I think. It's bargaining. Sorry, yeah. So kind of sad still, but hopeful at the same time. And then this is the storm. Eventually, when you have to start going into it, when you have learned enough that you gained enough power that you can run through the storm.
You can run through it in the beginning of the game, but it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
When you start to progress and you talk to more people, you gain speed. You level up essentially, and then it's going to be way easier to actually break through the storm.
Yeah. And that's it for the screenshots.
You want to talk about the mechanics?
I can. The game plays in a quite simple manner. There's few interactions. You can interact with coins that you can pick up, or nuts later on in the springtime, by colliding into them. Then there's the dialogue system where you can interact with NPCs, and then you can have a dialogue monologue. And then you also, that's all supplemented by moving around the islands. So we decided to make it the movement with 6 degrees of freedom, basically, so you can move vertically quite easily and in basically every axis. And to do that, then I came up with a physics-based system in Unreal, where the entire flying part of the game is made in Unreal's own physics engine, and it worked fairly well. Now, the only problem with that is that the way it was set up, I couldn't have a physics object that's also like a character controlled pawn and have it translate into walking as well. So I made a custom movement component for the walking part, which just traces the landscape where you walk, and it's prone to exploding, since it's never a good idea to write your own movement component in a game jam for complex stuff like this, especially in a 3D setting. But it was fun, and I enjoyed the challenge. And in the end, basically, the entire thing that drives this is just adding linear force and also, or basically thrust in different directions, and adding torque on several axes. So torque is like angular velocity, and linear velocity is just the thrust part. And then based on your movements and your proximity to wind sources, then you will go either faster or be in less control or be in more control, depending on where you are. And it's all done in blueprints, actually. So that's a thing. And the blueprint code for it looks horrible, obviously. But it's something that, like, as a proof of concept, works quite well. Like, you can make physics-based gliding movement in the game, but for the love of God, try to like tie it into an actual like movement component that actually works. Yeah.
Meanwhile, a question from the chat: who designed the characters?
Me.
Who is me?
Leene, from the Death and Taxes team. Okay, so basically, the first thing I wanted to do was get a feeling for it. So I put together 3 mood ports, and I asked my teammates which one they like the most. So that's the second one, and that's the third one. And my teammates liked the third one the most, so I was like, okay, let's go with this kind of a feel for the game. And using this mood board, I put together a color palette for the game, for like different elements into it. I was already like visioning what kind of things should look like what, and then at the same time I was doing the palette. And I made the first picture of the sky, and I really liked it. I was like, I should somehow like get the sky look like this in the game. But yeah, I made a lot of concept art that then is modeled afterwards and put into the game. I don't really like doing 3D, so I did a lot of designs for this in 2D. These are the pickups, the islands, and some things on the islands. And this is the first picture I drew about this character. And yeah, everybody liked it, so we colored it, and it went to the game. And I made up different colors for them at first, but then we came up with the concept of having different islands and different moods. So I made the different ones. Like the first one is denial, and the second one is panic, anger, bargaining, and acceptance. Acceptance looks like the main character, basically. Yeah, all of the use the same palette and different shapes and colors to give away the moods. Yeah, and these are the chat boxes I made for each of the characters to show their emotion more. And this was the texture for the storm. And then when spring comes, there are billboard flowers in there. So those are this. And they also made a tutorial for the buttons that's shown in the start of the game. And then I started making the skybox, and this was the first try I did. This is a panorama from Photoshop. So I figured out that I could color insides of a sphere in Photoshop, and basically this was the second try. And then we got rid of the darker clouds, and I made it even more sharp and clear as well. So this is the one that's in the game, so the panorama. And basically in Photoshop I found a layer that I put there. You can paint it inside of a 3D model, or you could also have this kind of mapping and you could paint it in there as well. It's possible to do it, but it's better to do it inside the sphere because everything is going to be warped, like you seen here. You can paint things closer to the the middle line, and they won't be as warped. But as you can see, then the lines are super warped when you get to the edges. So yeah. And also I made the itch.io page with the colors, and yeah, and a logo as well for the itch.io library. Mm-hmm. And I will show you the
Art station.
Oh yeah, here it is. So here's the panoramic view. So I just drew it in Photoshop, and this is the first one. I have the second one in here too. Yep, clearer, and added some islands into the clouds and stuff. Yep, this is inside of the game basically. That's all for me.
All right. Sound. I'll blast through this quickly. This is all of the sounds in the game. We'll start with the coin. The idea of the coin is that it was meant to be a red herring, and there was really no point to picking them up. So what we came up with is to have a nice coin sound, but as you collect more of them, the sound slightly changes. And then, it keeps getting more and more ridiculous until it just sounds really stupid. And moving on. This is how the dialogue works. So basically, there's multiple different instances of little chatter, and every time you hit a button, every time you trigger it, it'll play a different one. And this is done by me. I'm now a voice actor. If you want to hire me, just send me a message on MSN. Each time there's slight variances in the pitch and the volume, so that you don't really hear the same one twice. And that's the same with all of these one-hit kind of sound effects. Really, really simple to set up in Fmod. Like the steps, for example, do the same thing, where it cycles through them, but there's slightly different in pitch every time. With the flying, there's multiple different kinds of wind, and the faster you go, the more intense it becomes. As well as going into the wind stream. Same thing happens with this. When you're far away from it, it's not very loud, but the closer you get, the louder and more intense it is, and it also triggers some lightning. Yeah. And the music. There's basically, it's the same melody that goes across everything that happens. So if we start on the ground, then it's still a little bit tense, but it's not very actiony. And then if you get into the sky, it picks up. And all the melodies continue as well. Oops. And as well as that, there's also some other parameters like the storm being close also adds some bassy notes and some drums, and going into a wind stream as well adds some more percussion. And once you finish the game, you enter spring. There is a cue that changes the music to. It sounds like this. And then it plays a separate music track that's much more light. It's very loud. And that's how basically all the sounds in the game work.
And it's all adaptive using Fmod and using the Unreal plugin with the Fmod Unreal plugin with Fmod Studio. So Adam basically gave me the studio file, and then I just imported them in and called blueprint events whenever it was necessary.
Yep. So basically all these things that I've been dragging around are the parameters that Oak was controlling within Unreal, and it was very simple.
Yep.
Except for when it wasn't, and it broke.
Yeah.
Talk about that? The trauma?
Do you want to hear about the Fmod integration shortly?
Yes.
Okay, so basically you download Unreal Engine, you download Fmod Studio, and you download the Fmod Unreal plugin, and then you install all of that, and you're basically set. If you learn a little bit how to add stuff, to add like smooth blends between tracks and events in Fmod, then you can easily translate that into Unreal, because it's just basically, instead of like dragging stuff up and down here, like a parameter from like 0 to 1 or a boolean from yes to no, then in blueprints you would set this value basically either by tick or by event, and it's basically very, very simple. All of this information that you see in Fmod Studio will be exported into Unreal and then imported by Unreal, so you can actually edit the stuff in real time, live during the gameplay. And this takes care of all the memory management. Loads. We didn't have much like audio anyway, but it loads everything into audio banks and then allocates memory for it dynamically. And every time you need to load a track or a sound cue, then this is already pre-buffered, and yeah, it's very quite easy. The only thing that was bad was the documentation for the plugin, because there is none, really. So basically you have to use your natural intelligence, but if you are apt in blueprints, then this is never going to be a problem, because that's the easy part. The harder part is for an actual audio engineer to make things sound good, because there's a lot of tricks you can do.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I think that. What else we got?
About when we package the game?
Oh yeah, and there's one problem with the Fmod integration is that it will only compile properly into a shipped, or actually just any sort of build you make from the game, if you make it into a code project from an Unreal project. So you can have all the code in blueprints anyway, but you need to have a dummy class so that it would engage all the plugin libraries. So that's a thing. So if you ever want to package your game that has been made in fully blueprints and also Fmod integration, then you need to turn it into a code project. But that's inconsequential, really.
We realized that like 5 hours before the deadline.
Yeah.
And we ended up submitting it like 5 minutes before the deadline at 6 a.m. in the morning.
30 minutes before, actually.
Oh, 30 minutes.
Yeah. 34 minutes.
Easy.
It's more dramatic than just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry.
But still, like, it came down to the wire, and like these kinds of things are good to know them beforehand, and we didn't, and we found it out, and then we just like jerry-rigged it to kind of work. The compilation worked on my PC, but not on Simon's PC, so we were like, okay, well, whatever, at least we can build on one computer, and then like went with it. Any questions?
Yes. Question from the chat here. Are there plans to put content/mechanics into the game to make it replayable, or is the plan to make it just a one-time experience?
It is already replayable, because you probably will not see the content for the first time you play it. So the second time you play it would be like free-form sandbox, so traveling around, you already know what to do. You can go into the storm immediately and start exploring the islands. But that's it.
There's also like you're probably not going to get all the coins on your first try.
Yeah.
And there's if you don't get to all the islands and you miss people, like everyone has a different dialogue. So if you're the person that cares about reading the dialogue and understanding the story, then you're going to have at least 2 to 3 playthroughs before you find out all the content.
Another question from the chat. Are there some kind of event trigger that can be used to know when, for example, lightning occur, so that the programmer and artist can match it with visuals, camera shake, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. You can hook everything up, whether it's we can hook it up through blueprints, basically, using an event binding. This event can be bound to then the Fmod integration, to a particle system, to a location, to a volume trigger, anything.
But that wasn't what we did.
No.
They were just spaced evenly out.
Yeah.
They just happen
Yeah.
every so often.
Can you talk more about the competition itself? Are you guys how many people entered? What can you win and all this kind of stuff?
We had 270 games submitted now, so I have no idea how they rank games. Like a lot of games used a lot of like pre-made assets from Unreal Store. So if they judge art, are they judging the
composition or the assets?
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of unknown variables based on the fact that people can use as many asset packs as they want. So we'll see.
Generally, the results come in like a few weeks after the event itself. Every jam, every year, it's different because it's still the same people like organizing this, but it's just we'll find out when we will. But their prizes are basically Unreal Marketplace vouchers, Houdini license, Visual Assist license, basically software licenses and content packs for you to use.
The computer.
The computer is only for the special competition, and for the Epic Mega Jam, every finalist or winner gets a computer. So that's gonna be in the autumn sometime. So prepare.
Were you not eligible for that special category or no?
No, it was only for games that had a package size of 100 megabytes or less, which is insane. Oh wait, no. So Army of One. Ah, yeah.
Both.
Yeah. Army of One. So basically, a solo developer could also win PC. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
listening.
you.